Hi everyone, it's Dave from Doctors of Running, and today we are going to be doing a video talking about some of my favorite shoes that retail at $130 or less that you may be able to choose for race day. So some of the things that I looked into when choosing these shoes: one, price first off, but second, I wanted some versatility. I wanted it to be lightweight, I wanted it to be responsive, and I wanted it to be something that you could feel comfortable picking up the pace in and or falling into rhythm if you're looking at doing something that is a longer distance, i.e. a marathon or half marathon. So some of these shoes are going to lean more towards the short distance, some of them are going to lean more towards the long distance, but we'll talk about it a little bit with each model here. The first one that I want to highlight here is the ASICS Hyper Speed 4. Now this shoe retails at $100. Sometimes you can actually get it as low as $70 with some of the sale prices, which is great. Now this shoe is kind of a standard package. It's an EVA based midsole flight foam. We've seen it before, but I think one of the things that comes in good here is you have good traction and a good amount of responsiveness and stiffness in that forefoot as well, and the geometry is relatively balanced too. So depending on how comfortable you are with cushioning, you could take this shoe decently far. I think it's probably going to lean more 5K, 10K for most people, but I do think it has the option to go a little bit further than that. Spec-wise, it is pretty lightweight. You're looking at 7.4 ounces with 32 millimeters of stack in the heel, 25 millimeters of stack in the forefoot, so that is a 7 millimeter drop platform. And I think it gets the job done quite well, especially at that price point. This could be a very good workout shoe for many people and even a race day shoe for those that are on a budget. I do think one plus with this shoe is when you look at the upper, you actually have a pretty wide forefoot and midfoot there. So those that want a racing shoe that isn't super snug or squeezing the foot too tight, this actually gives you a little bit more space without sacrificing that lockdown. I think the lockdown on it is actually really good, and that volume is probably more on the moderate to low side, but that's kind of consistent with most racing models. But you at least get a little bit more space in the forefoot and in the midfoot. So going into the next one, this one's probably the most versatile of the bunch and probably the most surprising. This is the Brooks Launch 11. So the Brooks Launch 11 is technically a lightweight training shoe, but they designed it to be more versatile. This uses DNA Flash 2 as the midsole, and it has some remnants of like the Brooks Hyperion Tempo and some of those other models that used to be shoes that a lot of people love to do workouts and even, long runs and races in. So I think this is a really fun shoe. When we look at the specs on this one, you're looking at 35 in the heel and 28 in the forefoot. And this one is at 7.7 ounces. So, slightly nicer foam, good outsole, good rigidity, snappy feel. And this one retails at $120. And I think this will be a shoe that you could probably even take up to marathon. I don't see any reason why you can't. It's got a decent amount of stack height with a pretty good foam under it. It might bottom out a little bit at some of the top speeds. So this is probably going to lean a little bit more in that half marathon and up range, but I don't see any reason why you can't take it a little faster too if you wanted to. So my favorite things about this one, probably more the foam, outsole grip. And then volume on this one is on the lower side though, so you got to be okay with the more snug fit. But the width is okay throughout. I think it's just going to be a little bit tight on some people, but overall, I do like the Brooks Launch 11. So next one here was one that I was very excited about last year, and this is the Nike Rival Fly 4. Now with this one, you got to take the specs with a little bit of grain of salt because specification weight is 9.1 ounces, but that's men's size 10. So you could probably think about more 8.5-ish ounces. This one does have a plastic plate in there, uses air zoom, so it's an EVA midsole, but it has a little bit of compliance to it, but it has a nice little plate there, and it feels very kind of pitched forward. So this is one of those shoes where I feel like you really get a lot out of pushing off of the forefoot, but probably not quite as much off of the rocker. And so this is one of those shoes that I like for doing workouts in. I don't know if I personally would race in it, but the option is definitely there, especially if you're on a budget, because this thing does come in at 100, and again, it can go on sale for much less. And at that price, I do think it's very competitive. So this is a nice one. Upper on this one, it's a little bit more voluminous up front. It feels almost like a training type of a tongue and kind of hold through the midfoot, but it has a synthetic mesh upper, and the volume's a little bit lower on the forefoot with a little bit of width there as well. All these shoes that I've listed so far too do run very neutral. None of these are very great with stability. This is definitely more of a neutral category on these things. But this is one of my favorite shoes for just kind of getting after it and doing shorter distance stuff. I think just that kind of slight forward pitch in the weight, it just feels responsive. And then the outsole is also very grippy as well. So this is one of those things where I'm on the track or I'm doing road workouts in intervals. I really like doing it just to kind of turn over the pace. So to kind of sum up those three, the Hyper Speed 4 is probably the lightest of the bunch there. It has a little bit more of a balanced platform. It's going to be one of those ones where you're going to get a little bit of everything, but probably not the best at everything, but it's a great option, especially at the price. I think the Brooks Launch 11 has a little bit more stack underfoot. Oh, I didn't tell you, the Rival Fly 4, we don't actually have specifications as far as stack height on that goes, but it seems pretty comparable with the Hyperspeed. Now, the Brooks Launch 11, a lot of good cushion, good bounce under that DNA Flash 2. I think this is something that you could definitely fall into rhythm and have a nice long run type of shoe and maybe tackle that half marathon or marathon. And then the Rival Fly 4, I like it a little bit shorter distance. It has just enough cushion. You could take it a little bit longer if you needed to. I wouldn't take it past half marathon personally, but I have done workouts in that realm of that distance, and I do think it can make it 13.1. But definitely for me, more 5K, 10K, or track type shoe. But a lot of fun, and I think all of these shoes are good options. One honorable mention on here that I will put that I physically do not have, and I'll put a full disclaimer on that, but I did like version 1, and theoretically it fits this category, and that is the Adidas Adizero SL2. And that shoe is at 40 millimeters of stack in the heel, and that's 31 millimeters stack in the forefoot, so a little bit more foam under it. Light Strike midsole with the Light Strike Pro kind of insert into the forefoot there, so you get some responsiveness out of it. In the first version, I definitely felt like I could do a lot of long runs and tempo runs in it, and I think it could cater to the marathon. And that shoe retails at $130 as well. So that's my honorable mention. I wish I could give you feedback on it as far as my own personal take on how it feels. But the first version, if they just updated a few things, carried on, I think it could easily be in this conversation as well. So those are some of my favorite shoes that retail at $130 or less that you could choose to put on your feet on race day.